Hi, I'm Christy, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something that a lot of my friends have been asking lately since we just started school, so we're just getting into when typically they come home with, stuffy noses and fevers and sore throats and different things like that. And they always ask me, so what do you do? What do you do when they have this? Because, we don't have the typical medicine cabinet that you would, crack open and get different things like Tylenol or things like that. We don't use any of those things. So what I'm going to do is, in the next series of videos, is be able to explain to everybody what we, the Flynn household, use for cases of different things that they come home with. So let's start with a fever. So normally, as you know, fevers, when do they come? Mostly at night. You get that little, you can hear the cries, or you can, they come by your bedside and scare you half to death, and they're staring at you, and you can just tell something's not quite right. So what do we do? Well, of course, I live with Dr. Patrick, so the first thing he, of course, does is gives our kids an adjustment. But for all you moms, as something that you can do, like it's late at night, what do you do? Or when my husband is traveling, what do? I can't adjust them. So what I usually start with is apple cider vinegar. So we'll put it on a cloth, a soft cloth, a washcloth, something like that, and we'll wipe it on their forehead and their feet. So of course they're either in bed or they're upstairs, so we have to come downstairs because our medicine cabinet is in our pantry. But so you take apple cider vinegar and you're going to wipe it on their forehead and their feet, and what that's going to do is vasodilate. So if you ever, I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you take apple cider vinegar and you put it on like the back of your arm and then you blow on it, it's like really cold. So that's what it's doing. It's allowing them to cool down. It's releasing heat. So you can also do a cold washcloth, on their forehead, but I personally will do the apple cider vinegar on their forehead and the bottoms of their feet, and I'll take a cool or cold washcloth and put it behind their necks or behind their knees or in their elbows or something like that. It's just to keep them comfortable. It's not really going to lower anything per se. It's about releasing heat and allowing them to, it's supporting their body through the fever, which is what we want to do. We don't want to actually lower the fever quickly, or that's not the intent. We just want to make them comfortable as their body gets through it, because fevers, you cannot fear a fever. Fevers are so important. That's what's actually killing the virus or whatever they're dealing with. So you want to support the body around it, and then they can fight it off really quickly, actually. So apple cider vinegar allows the fever to do its job. By vasodilating, you're not lowering anything, you are allowing the heat to escape. So it's getting them to feel more comfortable, because how do you feel when you have a fever? Miserable. Not always, but especially when the kids have a lower grade fever. A lot of times our kids are still playing, they're still doing stuff. Resist the urge to send them to school. When they have a fever, keep them home. They need to rest. They need their body. You have to allow their bodies to heal. And so they need rest. They need lots of liquids. Now that's the next thing that you need to do. Make sure that they stay hydrated. And a lot of great things that you don't want to use Gatorade. They say, oh, electrolytes. Don't do that. There's so many dyes and sugars and things. It's not healthy for them. What you want to use is a coconut-based product or an aloe-based product. Those are both great things. Coconut-based especially, because coconut water has natural electrolytes, which are wonderful for getting them through and getting them fully hydrated. But aloe, we always do a mix of aloe and coconut water. Usually a flavored one of some site, an organic. Numa is a great brand to use of the coconut water, and we'll add a little splash of aloe juice along with it. Both great, wonderful things, but you must keep them hydrated. The number one thing about fever that you don't want to happen is you don't want your children to get dehydrated. Dehydration that's what you don't want. That's what actually you should be concerned about, is dehydration, but not the fever itself. Fevers are awesome. And I always say the most wonderful thing about a fever is after the fever. So after a child gets through a fever, they have a neurological advance, a spike, where a child, so a young child, maybe a toddler, they're not quite walking, maybe they're pulling themselves along, they have a fever, and then afterwards, boom, suddenly they get up and run. Or like they're verbal, they'll go through a fever and suddenly they're speaking clearer in more sentences or things like that. It's amazing the neurological things that happen as they get through a fever without you bringing it down, that you just support their body naturally around it. So the most important thing about a fever is not to fear it. Don't fear a fever. Just have these tools in your pocket, actually in your non-medicine cabinet, your pantry, to be able to help support the body through a fever. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for my next video, which will be going over what do you do when your child has a sore throat.